The final days and more word parsing over the auto bailout.
From the Patel studio at WOSU at COSI, this is Columbus on the Record. Joining Mike Thompson this week, Ann Fisher, host of All Sides with Ann Fisher on 89.7 NPR News. Darrell Rowland, public affairs editor for the Columbus Dispatch. Bob Clegg, Republican strategist, and Sandy Tice, Democratic strategist.
Who would have thought, but the final week of the Ohio campaign was missing something: campaigning, or at least official campaigning. The reason, of course, was the storm, Hurricane Sandy, that swept the shore and swept away parts of the New Jersey and New York coasts. It also flooded New York City, claiming dozens of lives and causing billions of dollars in damage. The president left the campaign trail to monitor disaster relief and work hand in hand with Republican New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. Any political animosity between the two men was swept away by the storm, at least for the time being.
But what I can promise you is that the federal government will be working as closely as possible with the state and local officials, and we will not quit until this is done. And the directive that I've given, I said this yesterday, but I will repeat, and I think Craig and others who are working with me right now know I mean it. We are not going to tolerate red tape. We're not going to tolerate bureaucracy.
Mitt Romney left the trail for 2 days himself, turning a Dayton area event into a collection point for supplies for storm victims.
I appreciate your generosity. It's part of the American spirit, the American way to give to people who are in need. And your generosity this morning touches my heart.
Ann Fisher, both candidates were off the trail for a few days. They weren't in Ohio. I mean, Romney did the quick event in Kettering. Who benefited the most? Who was hurt the most by being out of Ohio for those days?
Okay, we all benefited from having them out of Ohio for a few days, particularly people in the news business like us. But I don't think Mitt Romney lost ground, but I don't think he didn't gain any. I think he lost momentum. Barack Obama appeared presidential enough, and you can't buy that kind of publicity, and it's free, and it looks nice. But more than that, it was nothing he did. It was Chris Christie and Mayor Bloomberg that came out for him and praising him for his reaction to the storm.
Bob Clegg, I want to get your take. What did you think of Chris Christie? You know, he was praising he was careful.
Yeah.
He was praising the president not for his leadership, but for his attentiveness to their situation.
Yeah, well, obviously he is facing as a governor, and the governor, and Ann's right. It's the local that have to deal with this mostly. It's the mayors, it's the governors, and he's got a really bad situation in his state. And I think he did a great job of being grateful to have the help from the federal government, but not going overboard about it too much. I think this is one of those things that we really haven't seen the full impact of it yet. I think what's happening today and what's happening in the days before the election could turn this into something that isn't as great as everybody's thinking right now.
You're starting to hear the complaints from New Yorkers. You know, they've been without power. We know what that's like. Been without power now for 2 and 3 days, and if that continues, it's not going to be all.
Well, and they're running they're doing the New York Marathon on this weekend.
Talk about a tin ear.
Yeah, I mean, what's going on with that?
So, how does this play to Ohio voters? Do you think, Darrell? Are they watching this? We're really affected. Northern Ohio was affected by the storm with outages, but we weren't in Central Ohio. How are we watching this?
It's a good question. I suppose we should apologize to some for talking about the political impact of a national tragedy with so many people, dead and the loss of property and things. Now back to the fun part.
Yeah. What's the impact of it? Yeah.
What's the impact? I agree with Ann. I think there was a lot to lose for President Obama here, and I think he gained a lot. And the fact that the race was essentially probably frozen for 2-3 days, I think Romney needed to make up ground and has very little time to do it. So I think it probably hurt him in the bottom line.
See, I think there's another benefit to it. One of the fundamental differences between these two candidates is their view on the role of government. And we have Romney coming out against Obamacare, against the auto rescue, and against FEMA. And I think when people turned on their TVs and they saw this, they said, wow, government does have an important role. And to see two parties work together for the good of the people for a change was very nice.
And another benefit, another abstract idea that benefited is the idea of climate change. When Bloomberg supported the president, because of that, he said, this is a clear indication we have a problem. He's the only candidate that is willing to address the problem.
Let's take a look at the poll numbers. We're using the Real Clear Politics average of polls now because there's one every 10 minutes, it seems. Right now, the president has a 2.5, if you round it up, a 3-point lead over Mitt Romney in Ohio if you average all of the polls. Bob Clegg, the president has led pretty consistently in the polls, even by just 1 or 2 points. Can he make up that difference? Can Mitt Romney make up that difference on election day?
It depends on what you have to make up here. Now, they had a poll, CNN this week came out with a poll showing the president up by 5 points. And I agree with that poll as long as Democrats are going to be at a plus 9% turnout, which they aren't. So, I mean, the polls are good for what they're using as their data for their polling. What I'm seeing, I think this race gets down to what's happening today. The president was in Hilliard, Ohio at the fairgrounds, Franklin County Fairgrounds. He had 2,800 people. That's a nice little crowd. Mitt Romney's going to be in Westchester, Ohio with Speaker Boehner tonight, and they're expecting 50,000 people. I think that tells you what's going on in Ohio with this race.
And Cincinnati is key. Sandy, I mean, if Hamilton County goes for Mitt Romney, that definitely helps him with Ohio.
I would think so, but I don't think it's going to happen that way. I mean, I really think the president now has the momentum very gradually, very steadily, and I just can't see Romney pulling it off, and the auto rescue is one of the main reasons why.
Daryl, polling is your expertise. What do you make of the sample size? Which poll should we believe? Is the average a good indicator of where we stand in this race?
Frankly, I don't like to average the averages as Real Clear Politics does. It's a good site if you want to see what all the polls say. Frankly, the polls I use, and I'm kind of a poll snob, I use the Ohio poll. I still use Quinnipiac for the record. Obviously, we conduct polls. All these groups have been in Ohio for years, have done Ohio for years, and frankly have stood the test of times in terms of, their results are pretty close to the actual. Now, again, that's not saying anything about whether this year's are right or wrong, but some of these out-of-state folks come in and do a quick poll, robocalls, can't stand them.
What's the indicators we should watch for on Tuesday night after the polls close at 7:30? We start getting numbers. Now, the absentee numbers will come in first, and they're going to be skewed towards Democrats. Most people believe that.
But the absentees are interesting, or what I like to call the early voting is interesting because the Democrats are way down on their early voting compared to 2008, and obviously 2008 was a big year for them. But here in Franklin County, you have more Republicans that have voted early than you have Democrats, which I never would have believed.
I'm waiting for this weekend.
Well, maybe, but I mean, and then in all the urban areas like Cuyahoga, Lucas, Summit, Montgomery, the Republicans have already gone past their 2008 number. Democrats, especially in some of these counties like Summit, are 20,000 under their number from 2008.
You have to watch a little bit about that R&D identification, because how do we get that in Ohio? We vote in the primary. Yep. What primary do we have this year? A Republican presidential primary. There was nothing on the Democratic side. So I think there are more so-called registered Republicans now than there were in 2008, at least by comparison.
Well, a lot of that is enthusiasm, too. People wanted to be involved in the Republican primary this year, where the last time they really didn't, because things were not, the best environment for Republicans.
It was the only game in town, too.
Sandy, one more question on most of the polls show Mitt Romney with a healthy lead among independents. We always hear the independents are the key to the election. Does that concern you as a Democrat that the independents seem to be breaking for Mitt Romney?
No, it doesn't. I think a lot of the demographic groups that the president has identified and targeted with his policies and with the ground game, women, African Americans, senior citizens, those people are real supportive of him, and I think they're the only people who aren't really is the white men. So I think he's in good shape.
Okay, let's get to our next topic. Just when you think there's nothing new to say about the auto bailout, something else crops up. This time it began with Mitt Romney jumping on a Bloomberg News report.
I saw a story today that one of the great manufacturers in this state, Jeep, now owned by the Italians, is thinking of moving all production to China.
Well, that was incorrect. Bloomberg later clarified that story. Chrysler and Fiat, the parent company of Jeep, said it will not move U.S. production to China, but it is considering building a plant in China to serve the Chinese market. Then the Romney campaign amplified the flap by releasing this ad.
Who will do more for the auto industry? Not Barack Obama. Fact checkers confirm his attacks on Mitt Romney are false. The truth? Mitt Romney has a plan to help the auto industry. He's supported by Lee Iacocca and the Detroit News. Obama took GM and Chrysler into bankruptcy and sold Chrysler to Italians who are going to build Jeeps in China. Mitt Romney will fight for every American job.
PolitiFact called the ad "Pants on Fire" false, and the Obama campaign started running its own ad.
When the auto industry faced collapse, Mitt Romney turned his back. Even the conservative Detroit News criticized Romney for his wrong-headedness on the bailout. And now, after Romney's false claim of Jeep outsourcing to China, Chrysler itself has refuted Romney's lie. The truth? Jeep is adding jobs in Ohio. Mitt Romney on Ohio jobs? Wrong then.
Let Detroit go bankrupt.
Dishonest now.
Bob Clegg, do a cost-benefit analysis for me. The benefit of running an ad that chips away at the president's advantage on the auto bailout, harsh ad, tough ad, versus the cost of being called misleading, a false ad, being denounced by all the auto industries.
But it's not. But what they're denouncing isn't what Mitt Romney was saying is they're thinking about Chrysler creating jobs over in China to make Jeeps. My question is, and his question was, why couldn't you increase production here in the United States, in Toledo, to help that auto worker that's been out of work for the last 2 years?
For the same reason that Honda came to Central Ohio, is to build Hondas for Ohioans and for Americans. They want to build, I mean, that's just a good business. But the president started this.
He was the one that criticized Romney for having companies while at Bain who did these kinds of things in China, and he said that was taking jobs away from Americans. So somehow it's better when Chrysler does that, but not when Bain.
They're not taking jobs away from Americans.
No, but that's what the president said when Bain had companies that did this kind of investment in China, which resulted in creating jobs in China. He said those jobs could have been jobs that could have been created here in the United States.
But that's
it's the exact same thing.
Let's let Sandy weigh in here.
Bain, what they did was they closed Ohio factories, they cut them up and sold them off, and then moved some of the jobs abroad. What is happening in Ohio because of the auto rescue is Jeep, Honda, GM. They're all expanding. There's been hundreds of millions of dollars in investments, and it saved the domestic auto industry.
Why can't we have those extra jobs in Ohio? Why do they have to be in China?
Because they're building
That's
them
what
for
I'm asking.
Chinese.
Let's ask.
Well,
Daryl will be the referee here.
We can't export to China.
Daryl's been waiting very patiently.
Can't do that.
What's the truth here with regards to the ad and what Mitt Romney did not say? Why aren't they building jobs? They're saying they're going to move Ohio, U.S. production.
He says that.
In his speech, he said.
But see, that's not what the ad says. And they're saying the ad is wrong, which isn't correct.
They're both wrong, I guess is my question.
Well, clearly the speech is wrong. They're not moving all production. Governor Kasich was up celebrating the addition of, 1,300 jobs at the Jeep plant not all that long ago. I think certainly the overall impression of the Romney ad is not true.
Let me ask you, Bob, why did Mitt Romney wait so long to try to chip away at this auto bailout? He didn't really start until the debates. The whole summer went by. It was basically a foregone conclusion that President Obama saved the auto industry, and Romney was on the wrong side. He waited until a month before the election.
Because the Bloomberg story came out now.
No, it came out, but that came out after the debate. It was the second debate where he said, "Look, I wanted to do the same thing."
Yeah, I think the story is what drove this to be an issue on the campaign. That's why he didn't do it because he didn't obviously know that Chrysler was making plans to try to build a facility over in China to produce Jeeps. I mean, that came out from the article.
I'm wondering what it's going to do to the Italian-American vote.
I'm still feeling.
I wonder how many people know that Fiat owns Jeep, which is really kind of a strange thing. Daryl, is this the key issue in this campaign, the auto bailout? It will decide Ohio. If Obama wins, it's because of the auto bailout?
It's the overall economy, and certainly the auto bailout is a key component of that. I think we probably all would agree on that, so maybe we should celebrate that for a second. But it's, especially in northern Ohio, that is critical. I've been to rallies. The UAW folks, I mean, this is like what FDR did, picking people up. They're going to remember this for a long time. And Obama is their guy, come hell or high water.
All right, let's get to our third topic. The U.S. Senate race continued along this week. Now it's really overshadowed by the presidential race and the hurricane coverage from the East Coast. The latest Real Clear Politics average of polls shows Sherrod Brown maintaining his small but measurable lead over Josh Mandel. Sandy Tice, the Columbus Dispatch had never, ever endorsed Sherrod Brown for anything. They endorsed him over Josh Mandel. Why is this race even within 5 or 6 points?
Well, Sherrod's going to win handily, but he would win by a landslide if the Republican Party's allies would not have pumped $30 million into Ohio to sully Sherrod with these negative ads from the secret sources of money. Josh Mandel is a terrible candidate. He is a dishonest candidate. And because of that, and because of Sherrod's track record, every major paper in the state has endorsed Sherrod Brown. The conservatives, the liberals, the middle-of-the-road papers, and what they've said is he represents all of Ohio, and I think that's why he got those endorsements.
How damaging was the Dispatch endorsement of Brown?
Oh, I think endorsements, I don't know how much that really ever sways the actual voter. So I don't know if the effect was all that negative. I don't think it was. I love the Democrats who, when they don't like what a person says, a Republican, they'll say he's a liar. No, he's not a liar. All he said is that Sherrod Brown has been in office for 40 years. He's lost touch with people of Ohio. He was deciding vote on Obamacare, which the people then rejected. They were all the deciding vote. I'll do that. If you want to go down that road,
well, no, there's 50
they're
senators.
All the
they
deciding
voted
vote.
for
I
you.
got it. Okay.
I scored 1 point in the
They
game
weren't
and
all
won
hanging
by
on
1. I'm glad I made the good shots.
So they're all, I know that they all are, but he was too. Admit that. But anyways, and the people then reject it, and he says, but they don't really understand it. He doesn't pay his taxes, not once, but twice. I mean, the guy has totally lost touch of what's going on here in Ohio, and that's why he's at barely 50%.
The independent fact checker, PolitiFact, have rated Josh's claims pants on fire, which is the worst rating you can get, more than any other candidate. He is the pants on fire king. So it's not the Democrats who are calling Josh Mandel a liar. It is the referees in the political world.
The PolitiFact people who are liberal, and they do this to all the Republicans.
Please.
So please, Sandy, don't use them as the
Well, they have called Brown's ads pants on fire occasionally, too.
But Josh leads the list.
Our ad check, and first on the editorial, love it or hate it, had nothing to do with it. So, our fact checking has called Josh Mandel on several claims too, and not just in ads, in personal encounters with one of our reporters in an elevator that was videotaped and had an independent witness, and Mr. Mandel chose to deny what you could see right there in front of your eyes. So again, I'm not saying Senator Brown's the saint here and he's the sinner, but
the outside money numbers are incredible. Josh Mandel has spent $6 million on TV ads, a lot of money. The outside groups in support of him or his side has spent twice that, $12 million, supporting Josh Mandel. Is that a good thing?
We have freedom of speech in this country, Mike.
You know.
And the U.S. Supreme Court said that these individuals and these entities can do this.
But is it a good thing?
Yeah, it's the more discourse you can have about these races, the better it is. Why, people need to know all this information. People aren't like us. We're not normal. We get into this stuff and we get into it, all the little details. The normal person doesn't really focus on campaigns until maybe a week before the election, maybe.
The discourse isn't the problem. It's not knowing who's talking.
Right.
It's not knowing who's doing the talking is the problem. And I think that's always been an issue when it comes to campaign finance issues and that sort of thing. What do we do? We always go look at the campaign finance reports to see who gave what and where they're from. That's what it's all about. That's what we can't know about the super PACs that are contributing tens and tens of hundreds of millions of dollars now.
Yeah. Or super PACs actually do have to file. It's a 501c group.
Yeah.
The supposed social welfare groups whose social welfare seems to be electing one candidate or another. I mean, Bob, I thought you were maybe a voice for disclosure from back in the day.
I'm for whatever it takes. But the court says you don't have to. So I mean, both sides do it too. I mean, this is just part of politics. This is the way it works.
Right. Republicans do it far more than Democrats. I mean,
dirty business.
Well, the president was against it, but then he was for it. So that's another one of those things. So I guess that means the Democrats are for it.
Kind of like redistricting reform.
Do we see? I mean, Citizens United it was a controversial decision, but this race will be the poster child for Citizens United, the Mandel Brown race. Do we see that lawmakers looking at this and say, this isn't what we want?
I thought John McCain made an interesting comment when he was in Ohio, and they asked him about all the outside money in the Mandel race, and he said it was a scandal waiting to happen. The Citizens United ruling overturned key parts of McCain-Feingold, which is a very important reform he got behind. And so having somebody like John McCain say that, I thought was pretty meaningful.
Bob, do you see it coming back, maybe more disclosure, limiting these ads
Well, I mean, it
somewhat?
depends. I mean, I think to do this, don't you have to go a constitutional amendment route to force that or not?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I mean, the Supreme Court has rules.
Again, none of us even play attorneys on TV, but
I don't know what
for disclosure, the Supreme Court has generally upheld disclosure requirements. But the hard part is nonprofits don't have to disclose, but most people are thinking of the Red Cross or whatever there, not some secretive political operation.
I do want to predict that if Bob ever runs for office, we're going to get that quote, "We are not normal," taken out of context. It's going to come right up. Anyway, on election night, you will hear over and over again the phrase, "It's too close to call," as reporters and networks try to figure out who will win Ohio and other swing states. But what if at the end of the night it is still too close to call? Then it comes down to provisional ballots and a possible recount. And no doubt legal challenges. Here's how it could play out. Step one, the provisional ballots are first validated and then counted. That takes 10 days. Then they canvass the other votes. They check the machines, check the absentee ballots. That takes another 10 days. And then there's the recount if one person only wins by 0.25% or less. Darrell Rowland, what are the chances of that happening?
Probably pretty slim. Probably would have been about the same if you asked me in August of Ohio State going undefeated this year.
There's 2 games left.
Yeah. Mike, this election is really 3 elections in one. You have the early voting period that we're in now. I think all indications are Obama's going to win that. He won handily 4 years ago. I think he's doing well. Maybe not to the extent he wanted, but he's going to win. There's the Election Day vote. Romney's going to win that. And then there's the provisional vote, which is really up in the air. Probably going to favor Obama, though. So add those 3 together and see where we are. But election night, the key will be how close it is. Ken Blackwell, God love him, he was a quote machine for we reporters. We talked about races.
Former Secretary of State.
Yes. An outcome that was within the margin of litigation. And we have, hundreds, probably thousands of lawyers. They've got their billable hour machine just ready to go.
The provisional ballots, this year the Secretary of State mailed out absentee ballot applications to everybody. Many people return them. The problem is if you decide after you've returned that application to vote, you know what, I'm going to vote on Election Day. Those folks are going to vote provisionally. Are there a lot of those people out there? Could there be a lot of those people out there?
I think there are a lot of people like that out there. I think the Secretary of State, John Husted, has tried to get that number down to as little as possible, which is why he was putting in all these things that he wanted to try to cut off so that the books could be looked at. And I think he realizes that you don't want to go into an election with hundreds of thousands of provisional ballots, which has happened here in Ohio in the past.
As of late this week, there were about 30% of the absentee mailed ballots were still out there, which is if that was probably like as of Wednesday, which is a week before the election. It's not bad. There's still a lot of votes out there.
Yeah.
What do you think, Sandy? Overtime?
I hope not, for your sakes. But I'm looking at a lot of these states where it's supposedly very close, and Obama's ahead in almost all of them. So I don't think it's going to be nationally as close as people think, and I think he's well positioned to win the electoral vote.
I think it's interesting that what we're really all thinking about is 2000, right? And that horrible nightmare. And I was talking to an intern the other day, and we were talking about hanging chads, and she just gave me the blank look. And I said, "You don't know what hanging chads are?" And no. So what we're talking about is a nightmare, and that's what we're all afraid of. But in the end, we learned a lot about how our system operates from 2000, and we've made a lot of improvements, I hope, since then. So we'll see if they work.
Okay, let's get to our final off-the-record comments, our parting shots, predictions, perhaps. Sandy Tice, you're up first.
The language for Issue 2, which is the redistricting reform, is very long and somewhat confusing, and the state issues are on the ballot first, the local issues are on the ballot next. And we heard a lot of concerns mainly from senior citizens that the senior levies are so far down on the ballot, that people are going to forget to go there. So I'm not going to tell you how to vote on the local levies, but please go all the way down the ballot and see what you are concerned about in your local community.
Bob.
Nationally, Romney 50-48. Here in Ohio, I would guess the margin for him will be somewhere between 2.5 and 3 points.
And Romney wins the Electoral College.
Yes, because he wins Ohio.
Darryl.
If there is litigation following the election, one of the first issues I think is going to be whether provisional ballots are public or not. Both candidates, that was almost litigated in the Kilroy Stivers race a few years ago. That could be ugly because once those names get out there, provisional voters, both campaigns will go after the ones they think are in their camp.
Yep. And Ann.
Apparently, storms like Sandy are going to become more frequent and even worse. With 5 to 6 million households suddenly unplugged, radio emerged as an unexpected winner. It never shut down in some of the stations. It was a huge win for them, and I'm just predicting going forward that radio is going to, get its chops back and get some of the respect that it deserves.
Nothing like when the lights go out.
That's my
turn your
prediction.
Radio. Well, I'm not going to make a prediction, but I have a new iPhone, so I'm going to ask Siri who's going to win. Who wins the Ohio election, Obama or Romney?
Checking my sources. Search the web for who wins the Ohio election, Obama or Romney.
There it is. Check it out on the web. All your answers on the web. That's what she says. Next week, we'll have the answers, hopefully. Before midnight, we'll start our coverage with a special Columbus on the Record, Election Night 2012. Sandy and Bob will join me to kick off the PBS NewsHour coverage of the election. Our coverage on TV begins at 7:30. We also have complete coverage on 89.7 NPR News, starting with Ann Fisher's program at 7, and on WOSU.org. Plenty of election coverage on WOSU. That is Columbus on the Record for this week. For our panel, for our crew here at WOSU at COSI, have a good week and vote. What the heck?